Hi, Facebook. How you doing? My name is Javier Lopez. I'm a solid believer. I'm a solid, rock solid believer in Jesus Christ, and I'm gay. I thought I'd just use this video to tell about my story and things, and just talk about myself overall. All right. So I've known I was. I've liked guys my whole life. It's just something I can't. It's just something that's there. First, third grade, I was obsessed with this boy Alex has been. First through third, I remember like the fourth through sixth, I was obsessed with. I remember like especially the fifth and sixth grade, I was obsessed with this boy Alec Rideau. And I remember the after that seventh and eighth grade, I was obsessed with this boy David Benitez, and especially in the eighth grade. And eighth grade was a hard year. It was the year I almost That's the year I felt it was the worst school year of my life. Um, I remember going through massive depression that year. I got bullied a lot, and I almost that's the year I almost committed suicide in April 2015. Um, I remember I remember all those times though. I used to like I said I used to not believe it. I was gay. I'm like there's no way I could be gay. Um, and I remember my obsession with this guy, especially David Benitez, and I remember Alec Rideau, and every crush I've had ever since then every crush I've had in my whole life has been a guy. Has been with guys, and it's and I've been I remember I moved to Virginia when I moved to Virginia in 2010. That's when I was 14 years old then. That's the first time I actually finally admitted to myself that I was gay. When I was 14 and I first moved to Virginia. Um, and I remember really liking this boy named Paul in the apartment I used to live in. He's the first crush I admitted to having, even though the first crush I really had was Alex in the first grade. And I just okay, and I remember freshman year was a hard year. It was a pretty depressing year also. But I remember like when I first accepted myself, I was 14 years old and I was having a wonderful summer. The summer of 2010 was at that point was like one of the best summers I've had in my lifetime. Um, I remember I went to Mexico. I went to Salt Lake City for the first time. I went to Denver, and I went to I don't remember where else. We moved out here to Virginia, and we went to Boston, and we went back, and it was an awesome summer. But that was the summer I admitted to myself I finally admitted to myself that this is who I am, and that I was gay, and this is who I am. And I was comfortable with myself back then. I accepted myself very fast, and I just remember, even though freshman year was a hard year, a pretty hard freshman year, I remember I accepted myself, and I knew who I was, and that this is who I was. Um, I remember sophomore year, I accepted myself too, and I accepted the fact that I was gay back then, and I remember that um, sophomore year is when things got really confusing. I remember going through this whole religious spiritual battle. I was just really seeking back then during my sophomore year. I remember spending it looking into everything, including Muslim, Islam, Jehovah's Witness, and I remember between November of 2011 and in October of 2012. I was with the Jehovah's Witnesses. I was really doing studying with Jehovah's Witnesses. Um, and I remember getting into all that really really much. And so what happened was sophomore year. I remember what really first brought me to Christ. What really first brought me to Christ was Larry's testimony. Um, I remember there was this older guy. He was like 78 years old or something, in the late 70s, 77 or something like that. Who I used to go to talk about the Bible and talk about God. And I remember that I used to talk to him a lot. And I remember he told me his testimony one time, and it was like January, February of 2012, I believe, 2012, during my sophomore year. I never told him I was gay, though. I didn't really tell anybody that I was gay, but I knew it myself, and I knew it for like the last 2 years, and I accepted myself. And I mean, back to the testimony. I'm sorry. I remember that I told him. I mean, I remember that he told me his testimony about how he remembers the exact time, the exact date, the exact time. He he remembers the exact year, exact month, exact date that he got saved. And I was so amazed by that. And that's really what, as I said back then, and I still say now, got the ball rolling. And and after that, I remember I was really I was I remember like my freshman year, sophomore year, I was talking to a lot of guys online. I was meeting other gay people, people like me, and I just wanted to say that I remember it was about that time that I was talking to this boy named Peter Reed, who I really really liked, and he really really liked me. And we weren't technically in a relationship, but I remember that he was we were acting like we were acting like we were in one. Well, basically, we may as well have been in one. Um, and I remember that he was a really sweet guy. I really really liked him. He really really liked me. And we were talking, and it was like we were in a relationship. But we technically we never got committed. And I remember that when I started talking after I remember hearing Larry's testimony, like I said, that's what got the ball rolling. And then I started to think to myself, like, what if gay is wrong? What if what if it is a sin? And what if and then I also started thinking about other things like Jehovah's Witnesses, like what if that's wrong too? What if that is that's wrong too, and then that's not something I should be part of? And I'm still convinced that like it was a cult. I'm gonna tell you the truth. Um, sorry. But I remember like just rethinking everything, rethinking about how I've been the last 2 years. And I mean, I've accepted myself as a gay person, and obviously I didn't tell anybody yet, but I was just out to myself, and I was comfortable, and I loved myself for who I was. And I also was studying with Jehovah's Witnesses, and I was meeting other guys online. I wanted to find love like everybody else. But then I started to think, like after I heard Larry's testimony, like if Christ is if Christ is the truth, then He's the truth. If He's the, I mean, if He's the way, the truth, and the life, like He said, if He's God, if He's God, then He's God, and that's it. Um, He's God, I'm not, and that's what it ultimately comes down to. Like I remember thinking back then, like if He really doesn't want me to be like, if He really couldn't accept, I mean, didn't want me to be be gay, I guess, or whatever. It's all in his hands, and he's the truth. He is God. Jehovah's Witnesses don't say he's God, and he is God, and Jehovah's Witnesses don't say there is a hell, and there is, and they just I'm like, it's all, everything's in his hands. Everything's in his hands, and and if he wants to lead me out of all this, so to speak, then it's in his hands. I put it putting it in his hands. Um, and I remember what happened was that after that, I got started to obsess with this Continental United Airlines merger. And I obsessed with that for about a year. But I remember, like, the first month, I remember I stopped talking to Peter Reed, and I don't know if that was the work of God or not, trying to get me out of it, so to speak, or whatever. But whether it was or not, here I am today, and obviously, um, obviously, but I remember that, like, it was probably, I don't know, God works in mysterious ways. But I remember Peter. I stopped talking to Peter Reed for like a month, and then he kept wondering what happened to me, and he kept wondering. I remember just posting about this Continental Airlines, United Airlines merger, because I've always been obsessed with the airline industry, aviation, and all that. Like painting the United colors to Continental colors and all that, and it was really cool. And I remember going on the United Airlines tool website. I made friends on there, and I also got into a lot of fights on there. I was so obsessed with that tool. Um, I never really cared about the tool. I knew I was a Globe fan. But anyway, back to it. I made a lot of friends on there, but I stopped talking to Peter Reed after a month. He defriended me, and then and then I remember, like, that's when I just started to think like a very hostile thought or something. Like, you know what? This is what I was, and I almost like want nothing to do with it now. I remember thinking that, and I remember deleting Peter Reed his messages on Facebook because I wanted no memory of that. Um, and what happened was I came immersed with all this with the airline merger. I was obsessed with that for like a year, all the way up to like my junior year started, and I remember getting obsessing with that when I was watching all the United planes turn to Continental and you just keep the name United. And I remember but I also remember really starting to be on fire for God back then. At the same time, I'm just kind of sharing my story here because I really remember. Like, I remember I started to watch like certain TV preachers at certain times. Carrollton Bird, Charles Stanley, um, I forgot something, Christ in Prophecy, and Benny Hinn. I remember just watching all this, and I think that's around the time where I actually read my Bible, and I actually got through all four gospels. That's the only time I ever did that. But I really was starting to really, obviously, like I should do, and like we all should do, put God first in my life and really looking into Him. That's when I really started to look into, really started to have a passion for God and all this. But I remember getting influenced by Him. I remember, like, as time progressed, um, I remember getting influenced by conservative Christianity. Um, and I remember turning into exactly what I condemn today. Um, and that lasted a while. I remember I was really I pushed myself back in the closet then. I went way back into denial about who I was, and I just was like, forget it, I'm not gay anymore. Oh, Christ set me free from this or whatever. And even though I've never had a heterosexual attraction, I'm not even kidding. Um, Oh, I mean, but sorry. I mean, what was I? Okay, I'm back. Sorry, I just felt like I felt when I said that I felt like kind of a turn in my stomach. I don't know. I'm sorry, Lord, if I offended you. Please forgive me. Um, Anyway, I remember just thinking, like I went back into denial about who I was. I obviously still liked guys, but I never admitted it to any. I stopped admitting it to myself, and I just like kind of just ignored every attraction I had. I just kind of ignored it, and I just kind of suppressed it, and but ultimately I really came close to I really brought myself um to a position where I really was just really on fire for God, and but then that started to turn ugly when I got into all this fundamentalist conservative Christianity. And I remember I became what I condemn now. I became like a one of those religious people who are just who push fear and oppression on the gay community, and I remember bashing people who were gay. Oh, Christ can set you free. Oh, this and that. I remember, and I kept saying the same thing, like, "Oh, homosexuality, it's a demon." And I remember saying all that. And I'm an ex. I used to be gay. Now I'm not. But yeah, I sincerely believe back then that I was that I stopped being gay, even though now that I look back, I remember having the same attractions that were always there, and they never went. Not only did they never went away, I never had a heterosexual attraction either. So, but I sincerely believe back then I stopped being gay, and I sincerely believe back then that I somehow that Christ set me free or something. But um, but I mean, but doing that also, I'm just going to point out that doing that made me really, really a dirty person, a really hateful person toward the gay community, and it just pushing myself into the closet really pushed. Forgive me if I offended you all. Um, oh yeah, pushing myself into the closet really made me really kind of made me a nasty person. I remember arguing. I'm just gonna arguing with my family about it, who supports the gay community, and I remember marching for marriage twice, and I remember doing all that, and I remember getting into fights about this on Facebook. It was a really ugly time for me. But moving on from that, I had a passion for God. I had a passion for God in 2012. I had a passion for God then, and I have a passion for God now. I want to stay close to God as much as I can. I believe that He does. I, I believe that what was I going to say? Oh yeah, I believe that He does love me for who I am now, and I remember what happened was I remember that before the same-sex marriage ruling, I was so strongly against them legalizing gay marriage, and it was just so weird of me. But I also that's around the time that I got saved. Um, I remember this has nothing to do with gay marriage ruling or any gay stuff, but I remember going to Liberty, Missouri, and I remember this is the time where I just wanted to be baptized in the name of Jesus. And I really remember making a very strong commitment to Christ back then, um, where God actually revealed to me that I was covered, and it was amazing. It was an amazing experience. Um, So what happens? I remember going to Liberty, Missouri, um, with this, and I remember getting baptized in the Missouri River, and I gave my life to Christ, and it was amazing. What happened was that I was like, I love Jesus with all my heart. I'll never back down, and I made a very strong commitment to Christ. And it was just something I question today whether or not I was ready for it, but I'm happy I did that. Um, and and it was just something that's really. I remember after I did that, people were praying for me, and then God revealed to me, "You recovered, my precious one," and it was amazing. It was amazing. But then I remember, okay, I went to Colorado, then I went to Florida, and then I came back to DC, and it was like June 4th, June 5th. I remember I got baptized on June 2nd. That was the day I'll never forget. I'll never forget that day. That's the day that really marked my life up to this very day, and I always will. But I mean, I remember after that, I went to Colorado. I went from Missouri to Colorado, and then I went from Colorado to Florida, and then I went from Florida back to Maryland, and then I caught the train back into Virginia. And then so I did a lot of traveling back then also. And I was so amazed about what happened, so thankful for what happened, and I was just so thankful to God for what happened. And I always will be. I always will be, and I never want to go back on it. Um, and I just wanted to say that, wow, this is a long video. It's not even. I'm not. Um, I just wanted to say that after that happened, I remember the ruling came down legalizing gay marriage. I remember I was furious. I was so furious it happened. I remember, I don't want to even say what I did, but I'll just go ahead and say it because I regret it now. I actually went over there went over to the Supreme Court in D.C. to protest it, to help somebody protest it, to help two people protest it actually. And I said things on camera that I shouldn't have said when they interviewed me, and it was a really ugly side of me. And I regret it. I really regret it. And I want, if I can apologize to every gay person I hurt, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I ever did that. Um, but anyway, and then I just came eventually after a while, freaking out over this. I remember coming to the realization that, wait a minute, I've been gay all along. This has been who I was all along. My sexuality never changed. Um, and it just, ever since then, it's just been a whole time, I mean, of just kind of re-accepting myself for who I was. And let me tell you, it's been a humongous struggle. Um, I remember, because I remember, I'm trying to remember what really triggered. Well, I started to think that, and then I remember what really triggered it was I started to watch this video of what's his name? It has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with homosexuality, but it has to do with no, it has nothing to do with any religiousness or homosexuality or any of that. But it was about a guy who ended up killing a bunch of women, and it was about a murderer actually. But his name was, oh, I forgot his name. I'm gonna look it up really quickly. Well, it doesn't matter. His name doesn't matter, but I remember seeing them. I don't want to waste time. This video is long enough as it is. I remember also seeing a picture of him on. I remember seeing a picture of this guy as a teenager, and he looked so cute. I remember really falling in love with him because he was such a good-looking guy as a teenager. But I remember, but forget that. Just scrap that. Um, I realized that I was gay all along, and I just looked into myself, and I just kind of Like, wait, I was like this all along. Okay, so moving on after that, this whole past year, I've just been trying to accept myself, just for who I was and for who I've always been. Um, let me tell you, with my faith in Christ, it's just been such a struggle. My strong faith in Christ, it's been such a struggle, but I believe that God has stood with me time and time again, that He knows this about me, and and I just wanted to give some examples. I'm sorry I mentioned that killer. It was a bad reference anyway. But I just talked. Never mind. Um, okay, so like this whole past year, I've just been accepting myself for who I was, and not. It's been more than a year already. Actually, it's just been such a struggle, and I'm just re-accepting myself, and but it's all real, and it's all been there, and it's just been there the whole time, and I've been like this my whole life, and it's just, and I still what's the word? And I believe God has stood with me on this, and I'm going to tell you a couple. I have a lot of testimonies about how He stood with me. I mean, like I can name multiple times. Like I remember once Jesus. I remember once I felt like a very loving hand on my shoulder, and then I think it was. I remember I heard a voice saying, "I accept you, accept others." And I was it was I thought that was Jesus, and then I knew that was Jesus right there talking to me. And then I think God has been really watching out for me lately, and been really watching out for me like a father to one of His many gay children. Um, he's been like I remember getting into constantly getting into it. I think He's filtered people out of my life who He knew who I knew would condemn, who I knew wouldn't accept me, and even though there are a lot of them are just very sincere Christians I got in touch with, they're still no, they wouldn't accept me. They wouldn't accept me as the person that I am, and it's just so engraved in there that the it's just so engraved in religious teaching that gay people are condemned and are going to hell. And it's just and there's just no love, and they should all just pretend to be straight or never get in a relationship or remain single all their life and or somehow miraculously turn straight, or else they go. Is there essentially the theology is be straight or go burn or whatever? I don't know. But the point is that there's a lot of people I got in touch with back then who I just know wouldn't accept me for who I am, and it's just been it's been a struggle. But I know God. I believe in God with all my heart, and I know He stood with me. And I wanted to tell another story, but I think this video is already going on 30 minutes. I can't believe how long it's been. The story would take probably another 10 minutes, maybe more. Um, okay, so this just happened about a month ago, a little more than a month ago before my brother moved out. Um, right now there's somebody coming right now. My younger brother's coming home from school right now. It's just 3:18 in the afternoon. Um, I have the day off today, so I just thought I'd use this day to make this video. So I remember I was gonna do an outing with my brothers in Baltimore. And I remember that I'm gonna save this for another video because it's a very interesting story. But Um, I'll actually do it on my next video, but I don't think I'll be able to do it today or right now because my brother's coming home. I probably need to practice a little bit before I do it. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.